Let's talk a little bit about his MO of just sort of name calling when all else fails, or maybe not when all else fails. You know, Bush and Carson, they have low energy. We just heard in your story how Marco Rubio can't handle his credit cards. How he would know that, I do not know. But it's certainly been sort of working for him. I'm wondering if we're hitting a turning point, though, and he's sort of just coming off as a bully.
Well, you know, one of the lines of inquiry about Donald Trump since he got into this campaign in July has been, is there a point at which he becomes exhausting to Republican primary and caucus voters? That they just get weary of the relentless attacks? Because it's not a new thing for us to talk about Donald Trump dissing other Republicans. He's done that throughout. And have voters become exhausted? There's some evidence at the margins that they have, but Trump still remains either the front runner or the co-front runner with Ben Carson, not only nationally, but in the early primary and caucus states. So it is an open question. I think it's always something we should keep an eye on and sift the polling data for. Do Republican voters at some point grow weary of this showmanship of Trump and his ability and willingness to sort of lacerate Republicans running against him with something that approaches low-level viciousness? And so far they haven't. So I remain observant, but also cautious about predicting the future, because every time, not necessarily me, but others have said, you know, he's finally crossed the line. That line hasn't been crossed, and Trump remains a dominant factor in this race.
Well, Major, part of crossing that line, part of dissing other candidates is Trump's social media strategy. He is in hot water again for retweeting anti-Jeb Bush images, one of which shows Bush next to a swastika. Now, the Trump campaign says Mr. Trump didn't see the Nazi imagery and has since deleted that tweet. But is it safe to say that that social media strategy is now firing? He was in hot water a few weeks ago for suggesting that Iowans had brain damage.
That's right. It's because another retweet, and this is one of the interesting phenomena of this campaign. Does a retweet constitute campaign language? You know, and it does, because if Donald Trump, who runs his own Twitter account, that one about Iowa was blamed on an intern, but there's plenty of evidence that Donald Trump does all this tweeting and retweeting himself. Does that constitute Trumpian speech? And most people think it does. And what obviously happened here is Trump, or someone who may be branded an intern, got excited about this knock on Jeb Bush and thought it would be worth getting back out there. One of the things I love about this campaign is a profile that Mark Leibovich of the New York Times Sunday Magazine did about Trump in late September. And the final two paragraphs of that profile, which I highly recommend, talks about Trump being exhausted after a day of campaigning, landing in Los Angeles and taking a limousine ride from the airport to his home in Beverly Hills. When everyone gets in the car, including Mark Leibovich, Trump says everyone's silent and nobody speaks for the entire half hour. And Trump looks to be resting. What is he in fact doing? Tweeting on his phone. That, in a nutshell, is Donald Trump writ large.
Wow, sleep-deprived tweeting
Yes.
may not be
That's
good
the best
for him
thing. That's the
now.
best strategy.
Yeah. Can we talk about another poll? And you know,
Sure.
everything sort of lives and dies on these polls, but we got a new poll out of New Hampshire now. Rubio and Kasich and Christie appear to be rising. What struck you the most about this poll?
The thing that struck me the most is it's the first indication that the Chris Christie campaign, long given up for dead, may actually have some life. Chris Christie jumps 6 points in this poll, gets into the midsection, if you will, of those running in New Hampshire. Chris Christie has spent a great deal of time there. I would say his entire national campaign will live or die on what he does in the live free or die state of New Hampshire. And this indicates that that strategy, a lot of town halls, a lot of diners, a lot of house parties, face-to-face old-style retail politics, plus 3 credible performances of the debates, has begun to pay off for Christie. The other thing, Trump down 4 points, Carson down 2, Rubio up 9. So Rubio's also made a jump in New Hampshire. And the last thing, Jeb Bush down 2 points. And the people who were asked in this poll who won the last debate, overwhelmingly Rubio, who lost it, overwhelmingly Bush. That dynamic continues to play out. Those two battling for the establishment mantle against Trump or Carson, and right now Rubio is by far getting the better of Jeb Bush.
Yeah, Major, you've probably seen the headline from the New York Times today, Catherine Seal, with an article saying New Hampshire poll shows the rising value of a good debate, factoring into some of those poll numbers. Major Garrett in Washington, thank you so much, Major.
You got it.